Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, let's predict the price trend of Nvidia stock. I am a swing investor, and I will not consider the price changes of a stock 1 month later. This channel only makes short-term price predictions for stocks, usually 1 to 3 weeks. Welcome to subscribe to this channel. Nvidia stock did not fall too much on Tuesday, which makes the stock still technically in a high consolidation stage. Since the stock is still supported by bulls, the stock price cannot fall yet, but the bulls do not seem to be willing to push the stock price further. This shows that the stock currently lacks catalysts for further increases, so the market has become very cautious. Through the 30-minute chart of the stock, we can see that April 4th to 7th was the process of the stock bottoming out. A large number of chips were sold off, causing the stock price to fluctuate violently, and this wave of panic selling continued until April 10th, after which the stock's trading volume dropped significantly. Although there was an obvious chip selling action when the stock price was high, a large number of transactions occurred at a relatively low level during this cycle, which was a signal that bull capital intervened in the stock. The subsequent further rise in the stock price seems to prove this point. But the question now is whether the bullish capital that pushed up the stock price has exited the market. The stock stopped falling on April 21st and ushered in a wave of gains. The stock price opened sharply lower on April 30th, but then rose further. These two waves of actions that pushed up the stock price convey a positive signal. The bullish capital that pushed up the stock price has not yet withdrawn from the market on a large scale. Although some funds seem to have flowed out of the market during the last 4 trading days, it can be seen from the trading volume that the accumulated funds outflowing from the market do not seem to be much, and the stock's upward trend has not been broken. This means that the bulls of the stock are still in control. Nvidia will release its first quarter financial report for fiscal year 2026 on May 28th, and the shareholders' meeting to be held on June 25th. So in the past 2 weeks, the price fluctuations of the stock have been mainly affected by off-site news and the quarterly financial reports of other large technology companies. But we also see that the stock has not been affected by some unfavorable factors in the market, indicating that the stock is still waiting for a bigger catalyst. Some time ago, Nvidia was affected by import tariffs and the U.S. export ban on China, which led to a slight decline in its stock price, but then its stock price quickly resumed its upward trend. The company has realized that this is a long-term problem, so it has increased its investment in the U.S. manufacturing industry. Some media reported that Nvidia plans to redesign a chip to comply with U.S. export regulations. In fact, the U.S. restrictions on the company's chip exports to China have a certain impact on the company's sales, but this has not led to a continuous downward adjustment in its stock price, indicating that the current price of Nvidia stock is undervalued, and investors are trying to seize the opportunity of the stock's pullback to enter the market and buy at the bottom. Recently, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that if the United States cannot maintain its lead in quantum computers and artificial intelligence, everything will be in vain. I very much agree with Bessent's point of view. The application of artificial intelligence and quantum computing in the future is more extensive and in-depth than people imagine now. It will directly leverage cryptography, medicine, materials, and weapons systems. Whoever controls it will lead the future. Nvidia is an early player in the artificial intelligence industry. In recent years, the company's GPUs and related products and services for artificial intelligence customers have become the largest component of the company's revenue, and the company's revenue still has a lot of potential room for growth in the future. This seems to have formed a certain consensus among Wall Street analysts. We can see the stock ratings of Nvidia based on 39 analysts in the past 3 months. Its overall rating is strong buy, and the buy rating accounts for 87%. The average target price for Nvidia shares given by these analysts is $168. The highest is $220 and the lowest is $120. This lowest target price is even nearly 6% higher than the current price. But for short-term investors, it seems that they are more concerned about the recent price fluctuations of the stock. There are currently two pieces of news that may affect the recent volatility of the stock market. The first is the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision this week. The Federal Reserve will release a monetary policy decision on Wednesday. The market generally expects the Federal Reserve to keep the benchmark interest rate unchanged at its meeting on Wednesday, but the subsequent trend is still difficult to predict. But the slight increase in stock index futures on Wednesday seems to indicate that the market is positive about the Fed's interest rate cut. The second is the trade negotiations between the United States and other countries. The U.S. Treasury Department said on Tuesday night that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will meet with Chinese economic officials in Switzerland. Previously, Chinese officials said they would not compromise and fight to the end, but now seem to have shown a willingness to negotiate. Although the United States is also willing to sit down and talk, I think the two countries may be far from reaching a trade agreement. But the U.S. stock market seems to have digested the negative impact of tariffs. Some U.S. companies that rely on Chinese parts supply also seem to be adjusting to the long-term uncertainty of tariffs. But I think even if the U.S. and China cannot reach an agreement, the U.S. reaching a trade agreement with other countries will still bring a wave of gains to the stock market. Let's go back to the daily chart of the stock. The stock has remained at a certain height in the last 4 trading days, indicating that the market does not want the stock price to fall. This means that even if the Fed decides to keep interest rates unchanged, I think the bulls of the stock may still push the stock price higher. If the Fed decides to cut interest rates, then the stock may rise faster. The stock currently has a large number of profitable positions accumulated. This means that the stock price still needs to rise further, at least one more profit margin to release the bottom profit position. So is there a risk that the stock will turn into a downward trend? Yes, but it seems unlikely. I don't see anything that can cause huge downside risks to the stock market, so I think the stock is more likely to rise in May. As for the target price, I set it around $128. Okay, guys, this is my price prediction for Nvidia stock. Thank you for watching. If you agree with my analysis, please share and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.